Aloha. This is part 1 of 3. Nrf2 activist, unmasking, the most powerful medical science ever. And this particular version, I'm going to focus on where things all started and how what the real solution is of even the aging process itself, oxidative stress. But it's interesting that President Trump has been telling people what is going to solve our problems. It's bigger than ever. It's going to be here by the end of the year. And it's really big, bigger and better than ever. And we have the solution by the end of the year, right? I wonder who's listening to, because it's here and now. And this is what mainstream media hasn't been talking about. This is what deserves to go viral. But first, a legal disclaimer. The following information is for educational purposes only. No information or interpretation is to be used for diagnosis or treatment of disease, yada, yada. Anything that would normally require a license. As with any nutritional supplements, we can't guarantee to cure anyone's cancer or prevent anyone from getting COVID or any other disease. Now, with that out of the way, I'm so excited to take you on a journey through some key stages of evolutionary science and discovery, and what it really means to get Nrf2 activated. This first part is a deep dive into the science of oxidative stress from free radicals. And with the vital insights you'll gain from that, by the time we're done, you'll be ready for the second and third stages of our journey, where we'll finally unveil even bigger and bigger pictures of really the big picture of what medical science has finally come full circle to, what it is pointed very strongly to, which may be like taking a ride on a rocket ship for some of you. So if you haven't reached for your seatbelt by then, be ready to do that by the second and especially third stages, as we really push the button for blast off in that outer warp space, in the outer space at warp speed. When building a puzzle, the more advanced ones take longer to complete. And the more advanced the puzzle, slower it may seem just to get started. But with each piece of the puzzle placed, it adds clarity for the big picture in the end, no matter how obscure it may seem in the beginning. So even though the first part of this may seem like it's starting a bit slow, for some of you who've heard of Nrf2, even oxidative stress, for most of you, this will be like putting a more advanced puzzle together. And there are some wonderful rewards for those who invest in the initial deep dive before blast off to the peak of our ascent, where we'll see the bigger picture in the end. Greater clarity, glory, and power of perspective than ever. So please listen very carefully with your full focus and attention. In recognition for his discovery of superoxide dismutase, SOD, Dr. McCord was awarded the Elliott Cresson Gold Medal, which is the most prestigious award any doctor or scientist can receive. And his work has also been nominated for Nobel Prizes. But the Elliott Cresson Medal was established about 50 years prior in 1848. So it's been around even longer and is much more prestigious, as it's only for doctors and scientists and inventors who changed the world for the better forever. If you Google Elliott Cresson Medal, the top result is Wikipedia, where you'll see this places Dr. McCord in the same company as Nikola Tesla with alternating current, Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone, Orville Wright with the airplane, and Henry Ford. So Dr. McCord is listed at the very bottom because he was the last person in the world to receive this award. The first paper ever published on oxidative stress was in 1969 with the discovery of SOD, superoxide dismutase, discovered by our very own Dr. Joe McCord in 1968, over 50 years ago. This is how Dr. McCord gave birth to the whole field of free radical biology and medicine. He made the first discovery and published the first paper on it, so the whole science community looks at him as the father of it. Have you ever heard of SOD as the most powerful form of oxygen therapy? This is what I propose, because superoxide dismutase can dismutase or reintegrate 1 million superoxide molecules per second back to oxygen. Maybe this is why a single cell of a chicken egg can develop a whole chick without any external source of oxygen. if it doesn't waste any, if it has 100% efficiency, and I want to talk about efficiency in a way you've never heard of, superoxide dismutase translates into oxygen reintegration. Because superoxide, hydrogen peroxide, and other oxides are the free radical byproducts from using oxygen, hydrogen, and other molecules to turn the life processes of the cells on. When oxygen and hydrogen are used to turn on the engine of our cells, they end up missing an electron. They disintegrate and lose an electron, just like carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide coming out the tailpipe of a combustion engine. And SOD, catalase, and glutathione act as our catalytic converters to automatically reintegrate the superoxide, hydrogen peroxide, and other free radicals back to oxygen, hydrogen, and hemoglobin at a 1 to 1 million per second ratio. So each SOD molecule converts 1 million superoxide molecules per second back to 1 million oxygen molecules per second. Otherwise, superoxide and other free radicals are very unstable and will damage your cells many times per second, which is exactly what typically starts to happen more and more after the age of 20 until we die, as this mechanism breaks down, and sometimes even before 20. Physiology, again, means functionality, and cellular physiology is the basis of all physiology. For those who've been following me, who've known what I've done over the past few decades, you know I also talk a lot about a scientist who discovered the sodium-potassium pump, the engine that generates the power for cells to work. And I was his top student. He also wrote the basic formulas for life and death of the cells with his physics background. This is a man who really got on his path in 1966. And in 1978, renowned cellular physiologist Dr. C. Samuel West wrote, "If we could overcome premature aging, the master of degenerative diseases, we could overcome them all." The master of all diseases is the aging process itself, which biochemically is from oxidative stress. That's why oxidative stress had already become the most commonly studied and published area of medical research, with more money dumped into it than anything by the time the game-changing solution was finally discovered and published in 2005. And again, with the help of Dr. McCord. What solved the oxidative stress problem was Dr. McCord's first Nrf2 activation formula. Before I even get into what Nrf2 activation did to solve the problem, let alone what it really means to get Nrf2 activated, we need to talk about another big problem that was created by the fact that oxidative stress had already become a major market by 2005, and so many people had already been taught misinformation. Most people are still believing and teaching the misinformation of the antioxidant myth that was taught so prevalently prior to 2005. A lot of products by a lot of companies had already emerged within that market. And however good some of their intentions may have been, however ignorant they were, now it's over 15 years later, and it's time to catch everyone up to speed. After 15 years, the actual science of oxidative stress and free radical biology is stronger than ever, and ignorance is no longer an acceptable excuse. And in order to really see the bigger picture, we must start with these same puzzle pieces, the same ones that were discovered to begin with. And even though some of what I say next will sound very familiar to some of you, this particular presentation will show some new angles, even for those who have heard about this. And still, some of those are my personal insights, which have taken many years to gather here. With all the money that was, and unfortunately still is, dumped into the antioxidant myth, there's an obvious vital need to clarify it, which will also add clarity to the much bigger picture of Nrf2 science presented in the second and third stage here. Now, you've probably heard of the widespread myth of the ORAC scale science, which is based entirely on a 1-to-1 ratio. One molecule of a so-called direct antioxidant from sources like vitamin C to one molecule of a free radical like superoxide and hydrogen peroxide. So the ORAC rating measures how many 1-to-1 ratio type molecules a product has. That's a just 1-to-1 ratio, then they're depleted, used up, gone, or worse. People have tried to solve the free radical problem by consuming antioxidants from high ORAC scale food sources like acai, goji berry, and blueberries, which we know, along with vitamins, they do have plenty of health benefits. But it turns out they actually qualify better as pro-oxidants than antioxidants because by themselves, they literally increase oxidative stress. The key to understanding this is in the power of the science, is in the math, basically. So I'm going to pull up a screen share for you right here. Okay, here we go. Sorry that. And acai bottle, not to pick on the company or brand or whatever. It's just that acai is known to have one of the highest ORAC ratings. And right here on this bottle, it says ORAC rating is 3,900. To give it the benefit of a doubt, just imagine it has an ORAC rating of 10,000, which is pretty much off the ORAC charts. You'd have to try to drink 100 bottles of acai per second to keep up with 1 molecule of SOD, because 1 molecule of SOD can convert 1 million per second every second. Can you imagine the complications of trying to solve the problem that way? Just imagine wrapping your mouth around a fire hose and turning it on full blast, and you still wouldn't even come close to equal the power of all the super antioxidant enzymes that trillions of cells in your body produce when the genes are tuned right. Then there's the financial side. So how does the cost of each bottle factor into the equation? Ouch. We can feel that pain in a whole different way. Some more popular examples from those who know, trying to solve the problem with ORAC-based science is like trying to put out a house fire with a glass of water. The actual math problem is so big, it's like dumping a glass of water in the ocean, expecting to make a difference in the volume of the ocean. We actually produce more free radicals by digesting and assimilating an orange than the ORAC value of the orange. And even if that wasn't the case, which it is, we weren't designed to consume enough through our diet, even if they had the 1 to 1 million per second ratio, as our super antioxidant enzymes our cells are supposed to produce, like SOD. Dr. McCord already produced the consumable SOD product to try that, and consuming SOD didn't really work either. There are all kinds of problems with it. When everything came full circle, everything pointed to Nrf2 activation to give back the functionality of all the trillions of our cells to produce the SOD. Again, from 1968 and 69, when SOD was discovered and published, which was the birth of free radical biology in medicine, for years and years and years, there was so much money being dumped into ORAC scale science, which was certainly proven to be a myth by a 2005 peer-reviewed in vivo human clinical study. But since so much money had already been dumped into the belief of the 1-to-1 ratio products, most people still believe the myth. If we Google the key search words, let's show you something here. We Google the key search words of Coke and along with antioxidants, those 2 words. Let's watch what happens when we do that. Second here, new share and Coke. So we've done this and we have the top Google result here. When we click on this, it's taking us to a site that, here we go. Let's just skip that. And this is what we see. Coke antioxidants will be replaced by polyphenols. Even Coca-Cola has advertised antioxidants in their soda pop, and other major markets have also used this tactic because of what most people have been taught to believe and the money associated with those beliefs. By 2010, the use of the word antioxidants for ORAC ingredients was being banned in some countries, so they built on the term polyphenols, as you can see here, right? So if we Google polyphenols, the #1 site that currently comes up is Healthline. But I want to just point out that with antioxidants failing to impress European Food and Safety Authority, scientists and the term itself, therefore likely to become an unauthorized health claim in the EU, antioxidant forms like polyphenols are filling the market void. This is talking about them shifting to another word because it's becoming outlawed more and more in countries. So they've had to change their tune. And this is one of the sites that comes up next, Healthline. A couple of the top two on the search result for there are both this website. And at the top right of the page, you know, they're promoting cloves, other spices, cocoa powder, dark chocolate, berries, and non-berry fruits, beans, nuts, vegetables, soy, and red wine, which are some different markets. And at the top right of the page, it reads medically reviewed. And the initials are a registered dietitian, licensed dietitian, and certified exercise physiologist by American College of Sports Medicine. And then it says updated on March 8th, 2019. So last year. And red wine's a pretty big market. So if we click on that, we have a hyperlink that says this. Many people drink a glass of red wine every night for the antioxidants. The high number of polyphenols in red wine contributes to that antioxidant count. Then when we hover over the link for high number of polyphenols with a little green check mark, the pop-up window says trusted source, Nature, highly respected journal, expert written journal, peer-reviewed journal. Yet when we click on the link for that, it's sorry, the page you requested is unavailable. The link you requested might be broken or no longer exist. So even though so much of that article may appear credible to people who don't know better and was just updated last year, they completely failed to provide their credible source of medical journal to support the entire article. A coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. It's no surprise the link to Nature is broken. The whole thing stinks either way. As long as the #1 top-ranking Google sites that seem credible continue to promote the 1-to-1 ratio ORAC ingredients as antioxidants, and they're the top-ranking Google sites that are now teaching polyphenols as what contributes to the antioxidant count, people are still being led astray still today. When myths are spread intentionally and knowingly, they become a hoax. Even if major markets have become quite comfortable with the money they've been making, and although they've had about 15 years to correct themselves, it seems they need our help here. As a matter of integrity, we have a moral obligation to share this. This may seem bittersweet, and that's something I know a little bit about. The truth may be hard for some people to hear because they've been taught and have been teaching and promoting the ORAC myth for so long, it's becoming more of a hoax every day. And some people initially experience cognitive dissonance when they hear someone talking this way. We empathize, and at the same time, as vital as it is for them to understand, we're going to just do the best we can with love and understanding. And there are many forms of love. Even if it is tough love, it's still love. So do our best to empathize here. Many people who have come to me for help have expressed how they'd spent more and more money on health products. Some had already spent their fortune, and they gained more and more weight, got sicker and sicker, and ended up in the poorhouse on top of it all by the time they came to me. And many have ended up humbly asking for my charity. And I've given a lot. And there are a ton of people who need our help, who are spending good money on so-called antioxidant products that have only proven to increase free radical damage, the same damage their products have claimed to alleviate. As we can see from the Koch article, it's been banned in Europe more and more. It's becoming more of a hoax. But the myth was initially perpetuated in innocence and ignorance for so many years by people who were just doing their best and doing what they were taught. We've proven how good of duplicators we are, and we aren't saved in ignorance. Again, the solution was the discovery of something so revolutionary, it'll take the rest of not just this part 1, but also parts 2 and 3 to really give you the bigger picture. And again, 2005 is when the effective antioxidant solution, the solution for free radicals and oxidative stress, was finally published. For eons, Nrf2 is a master key problem solver we've all been born producing, but it's what's been breaking more and more until death. Nrf2 is what needs to be fixed, and little by little, we finally figured out how to fix it. In 2003, Paul Myhill of Colorado, who's had an interest in biology for much of his life, he said God gave him the initial formula for the first Nrf2 activation formula. And Paul's formula was lacking serious refinement to make it very effective. Paul heard of Dr. Joe McCord, who was right in his backyard at the University of Colorado, and he introduced it to Dr. McCord, who quickly began studying and seriously refining that first generation Nrf2 activation formula. All three mentioned here deserve credit, because everyone deserves credit for every part they played, and that's showing grace. So another screen share is to share that particular study. Here's the landmark 2005 peer-reviewed study. And let's just zoom into the top of this right now. Notice the name of the title, the induction of human superoxide dismutase and catalase in vivo, meaning full human beings taking a pill a day with a meal, not just part of a human being, not a petri dish. And notice a fundamentally new approach to antioxidant therapy. Just below that, the names of Paul Myhill and Joe McCord, right here. And it says, received June 22nd, 2005, then accepted 28th of August, 2005 there. This article says, oxidative stress is now recognized to be associated with more than 200 diseases, as well as with the normal aging process. It also says that down here, as for vitamin C and E, carotenoids, and a long list of others, look what it says. The results of the studies with supplemental antioxidants have been quite disappointing overall. You know, carotenoids, notice at the top, T-bars. They're the main focus, one of the big main focuses here, as you can see. And T-bars are a measurement of lipid peroxidation. Lipids are the fats in our blood. Since they get damaged the fastest and easiest by the free radicals, they're the best endpoint to measure oxidative stress scientifically. This isn't the amount of orange particles from carotenoids, which is from carrots and other orange-colored foods. T-bars have normally decreased more and more until we die, but our lipids also recover within about 2 weeks back to the level of a healthy newborn baby, even within an 80-year-old, with Dr. McCord's first Nrf2 activation formula. This study proved that, right? The chart on the third page here Let's focus on what's happening on the third page. Labeled Figure 1, Section A shows the steady increase of oxidative stress, a linear progression after the age of 20 without Nrf2 activation. It usually climbs higher and higher with age until people die. Below that, Section B shows no significant difference when separated by genders of men and women. Section C, up here, top right, is very revealing. It shows oxidative stress was significantly higher for those taking vitamin C and E, not just by a little, but by about double the oxidative stress beyond those who didn't take vitamin C and E. And in section D, we see for both groups, the level of T-bars dropped an average of 40% after 30 days, and the age-related increase in T-bars disappeared. Let's make sure you can read this properly. The age, I basically quoted that bottom section, minusing some of the scientific figures and numbers. The age-related increase in T-bars disappeared, completely back to the average level of a healthy newborn within 30 days. Again, because the lipids are getting damaged, they get damaged the fastest and easiest, and they also are able to recover quite quickly within even 2 weeks of Nrf2 activation. Free radical damage to lipids is the best endpoint to measure oxidative stress scientifically. Prior to this particular landmark study, this fundamentally new approach to solve this problem, medical science, nothing had lowered T-bar levels with the actual blood test, even though oxidative stress had become the #1 focus of medical science before the problem was finally solved here. Next page is for the red blood cells. Focus on those, which take 120 days to drop to the oxidative stress level of a newborn, because that's their life cycle, how long they live before they're all replaced. And this chart at the bottom of this page shows the increased production of SOD by about 30% and catalase by about 54% within the same 120 days. Some tissues cycle faster than others, and this helps us understand why it's important to continue Nrf2 activation beyond 30 or even 120 days. Dr. McCord says missing a day isn't a big deal, but if we miss it for a couple of weeks, our genes basically will go back to the same level of expression they were before we started. They're not being regulated more and more. So now you can understand the main reasons why no ORAC-based product has ever been published showing positive results in this area of science. This is with actual before and after blood tests, human beings, showing a reduction of T-bars and published by the #1 medical journal of authority, Free Radical Biology and Medicine. Let's go ahead and make sure you saw that. Right, there's the name of the journal. You can zoom in on it. Free Radical Biology and Medicine. They're the #1 medical journal of authority of this particular area of science. It is misleading to use the word antioxidants with the ORAC ones, which better qualify as pro-oxidants by definition, or at least what I call semi-pro-oxidants, because they increase oxidative stress greater than not even taking them without the Nrf2 activation. Especially when by themselves, they may be turning into free radicals. When they get in a fight with the free radicals, they end up losing. They end up losing and missing an electron themselves. They become a free radical themselves. And the same ORAC supplements are still having many other health benefits. And when they're taken along with McCord's Nrf2 activation technology, they do not increase oxidative stress as they otherwise do. I know. I know I've had to retrain myself on this as well. Sometimes I still catch myself and clarify if I slip up, but we know better. Before we know better, that's one thing. And once we know better, it's a totally different ball game. So if you've been slipping up as far as that goes, if you're still not willing to call the ORAC-based 1-to-1 ratio, those ones, what they're better classified for, which is pro-oxidants, there are other options. With as much empathy, love, and understanding as I can put into it, may I suggest to please at least stop calling them antioxidants. And if you're uncomfortable with calling them pro-oxidants or even semi-pro-oxidants, I'm only suggesting to use the appropriate terminology at the appropriate time and place as appropriate. As for the other times, of course, call them vitamins or whatever else they are that fits their positive description as appropriate. Again, this is what was proven with what this study clearly defined in this study here. So we can stay friends while we educate people with plenty of love and understanding, help them understand how important it is to join forces with us, and that way they can help us with the much bigger picture. Because what we're looking at is what we're going to show you, parts 2 and 3, is way more important to way more bigger picture than just dealing with oxidative stress, but it's an important part of this. So all of what we've just covered really adds perspective for the much bigger picture. So I'm going to go ahead and call this the end of part 1. And right as we get into part 2, we're going to start showing you what that bigger picture is. Congratulations getting this far.